Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Facebook Sort of Live. I am your host, Tom Bilyeu. I am here with the amazing voice of this community, the one that keeps it all together, the one that is the magical glue.
Hello.
Cindy. What's up, Cindy?
Hey guys, doing well.
All right, so technically the reason that this is, well, technically this isn't live. The reason that it isn't live is because I'm actually in Europe right now. Yay!
Yay.
Hitting up Cannes Line, which I'm very excited about, and then going to London because if you go all the way to France with my wife, you got to stop by and see the fam. So we're going to swing over there, doing a meetup. Also, I'm going to be on London Reel, which I am crazy excited about.
I'm so excited about that.
I want to talk about a show that I've used for research 1,000 times. So if by any chance London Reel team, you guys are watching this, no, mad respect. I am super excited to be on there. You guys are smashing it, and I'm very grateful for the quality interviews you guys do because it's one of the main places that I'm able to just get amazing information about the people coming on the show. So thank you guys so much. Super honored to be on the show. So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing. I'll still be filming all the stuff behind the scenes, doing lives and stuff. So
follow along on social.
Indeed.
Yep. All right,
let's get after it.
So our first question comes from Laura K Music 8.
Laura K Music.
From
Have you guys checked out?
Instagram.
Well, so amazing on Instagram, but have you checked out her YouTube page? So was she our first rap song?
She was our
Had to be,
first
right?
rap song.
Like this was amazing. She did a rap song for us. It's cool, and her YouTube page gets better by the day. So check it out. Definitely want to show the love.
She's out there hustling for sure. All right, so her question is, how do you tell the difference between good, healthy, and necessary boredom / frustration working towards a goal and boredom or frustration that is arising because the goal itself isn't right?
Yeah, whoop, whoop. This is a big question, and this one is so hard, and it can only be answered by the person. One of the things that I do for myself is I ask, how much do I care about the goal?
Right.
Okay, so like... Man, 9 times out of 10, like that's actually not true. But there's going to be a lot of stuff. I don't know what the percentage is, but there's going to be a lot of stuff day to day, just grindy stuff. And it's going to come in, it's going to go. Like when we first founded Impact Theory, I wanted to punch myself in the mouth. I was on the phone. Like, do you remember me raging at the top of my lungs about the IRS?
Yes.
I was losing my fucking mind.
I was probably raging about the post office.
Oh God. Everything that like I hate doing, the beginning of a business is like, it's my Goggins moment. And I didn't have Goggins to see me through. By the way, just super random. I now consider like the set in the gym where your muscles are screaming and they're on fire and you do like more, those are the Goggins sets. So like, as I was doing it today and today was leg day and like, oh man, you want to talk about always finding a reason? Like, I've done enough. Like it really hurts. I don't think I can do another. Today I was like, motherfucker, like these are the Goggins sets. And I just kept going. I wanted to pass out at the end of my workout today. Anyway,
That's
Goggins
awesome.
sets.
But
I didn't have
Goggins. For me, you're saying that, and I'm just like imagining little mini Goggins as like your muscles like yelling at you.
Yeah.
And so like
nice
I'm just
visual.
Seeing this like interesting visual because I'm a very visual person, so I automatically went there. So anyway,
I dig that.
Continue to answer your
So
question.
it literally, the beginning of a business is the Goggins moment for me. It's like all this ridiculous stuff that I don't want to be dealing with. It's like contracts on steroids. Yeah, it's paperwork all the time. So there's so much of that. But I was looking like out into the future and going, how much do I believe in what we're trying to accomplish? Like not just from a business perspective, like that's fun too. Like to think about like, oh my gosh, like to build like a multi-billion-dollar business and to create something massive. But more importantly, I actually believe to the core of my being that this is the answer to getting mindset to as many people as possible and that will influence the world and that the world will be a fundamentally better place because I'm willing to deal with the IRS. And that's what it comes back to me. I'm willing to deal with this. I'm willing to put up with this because I really believe in what I'm trying to accomplish. Now, since then, we've also structured our days so that it's fun, right? So we've talked openly. Fun is like actually a thing. That we do things like the Star Wars Day where we do celebrations. Yes. We're planning a company party to kick off the summer because why not? Like, to do things that are fun. I really love doing our lives. Like, these are a lot of fun, right? So it's like really making sure that you're able to find like, where's the value? Like, it needs to move the company forward, but also like, what are like, if there are 10 things that move the company forward and we can only afford to do 7, like if they're all equal impact, like what are the 7 that we find the most fun, right? And so really making sure that that's a part of the question that you ask and make the mandate that like fun is something that we talk about. And it's like a critical part of whether we consider ourselves successful. Like if we do what we want to do, but everyone was fucking miserable along the way, I actually don't consider that a success. So that's a big part of it. Knowing what you're trying to accomplish in the end. If you believe in that, then that should be the thing that you're sort of pushing through to accomplish, to have a real deep why, something that sits at the core of you, so that when you're dealing with the IRS and you are frustrated out of your mind and you're actually talking to a consumer advocacy group because it was getting that frustrating, that you're able to say and re-find the feeling of joy from that. That's a huge indicator. So if it's not leading into a why, there's just not going to be any fulfillment, that eudaimonic happiness. So eudaimonic happiness, and go watch the Dr. Drew episode. He talks very eloquently about this, but it's the notion of techne, right? So helping other people is great, but it's like supercharged. It's 10x at a minimum when it's a skill that you have uniquely acquired and can go out and help people. This is Laura Kay's question, right? Yeah. So like imagine, Laura, that you're using music and that skill that you have acquired and your verbal ability to go out and help people. That's very different than ladling soup at a soup kitchen, which most anybody can do. So being able to help people with a skill that you've worked really hard to acquire, like there's very few things that are more fulfilling than that. So if it's all feeding into that, I think if you don't have those things, then that boredom is going to come in. The why isn't going to answer that question. You're not going to feel empowered by what you're doing. There's not going to be that level of fulfillment or excitement thinking about like why you're doing all this. So yeah, I think it essentially, this is definitely oversimplifying, but it essentially comes down to your connection to the why.
Yeah. All right. Hopefully that helped, Laura. All right. This next question comes from Martin Ovacevic from the Connect inbox. Hi, Tom. I'm writing a project in faculty and entrepreneurship, and I would like to ask you, what are the top 5 key characteristics that every entrepreneur should have in order to succeed?
Okay, so numbered questions are really hard to answer.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna cheap out a little bit. I'm not necessarily gonna give you top 5, but so what are the top things that entrepreneurs need to be successful?
Yeah, key characteristics that every entrepreneur should have in order to succeed.
Okay, so I'm going to do it in beliefs instead of characteristics, because I think like characteristics is very, very broad. But beliefs, you have to believe that you can do anything you set your mind to. You have to believe that any problem is overcomable. You have to do and believe that which moves you towards your goals. You have to stay open-minded and be willing to pivot. I think that's a big deal. And when people are overly dogmatic and they think they have all the answers and things start going the wrong way, they're not able to step back and look at the landscape and say what really works here. And a lot of times they get to a level of success by trusting themselves. And so then they don't know how to handle like, oh, I'm actually missing something now. And now I need to go seek that answer. I need to listen to the advice of other people, or even being able to listen to advice without necessarily believing it. So hearing advice from a bunch of different people and then being able to pick the one that you think is real and is right and is going to lead you forward, that's very, very important. And then really critical, somebody on the team has to have vision. Not every entrepreneur, but somebody has to have vision. So you need to know, like, are you vision or, and now I'm being really sort of rough, but are you vision or are you operations? And you need both. And so those are like and look, it could be broken down into a lot more than that. Yeah. But vision, being able to rally the team, being able to articulate what you're trying to accomplish, getting people excited, right? Which is a biochemical state. Getting people excited about what you're doing and their role in it. Like that is so important. But also like holding everything together, actually helping to manage the processes and the people and help them see like, what's my path and how do we get this ongoing? Like those are critical components. Knowing what role you play is very, very important. And then a willingness to get better every day, because your skill set has already taken you as far as it's going to take you. And if you want to get farther, then you've got to get new skills. That's just and look, I know that that's sort of a lie, but it's like a really important way to view the world, because look, every day the number of skills you add are relatively minor, but if you stagnate, like, you will be startled by how quickly the world passes you by, and that you really do have to be pushing your skill set. You really do have to be thinking about getting better every day if you're going to push yourself forward. So just assume, it's an empowering assumption, assume that the skill set that you have today has already taken you as far as it's going to go. That this is it, right? That if we don't all focus on getting better, that impact theory is already at its peak. None of us would be okay with that. So we've got to come in, show up every day to play at an elevated level than what we did yesterday to get better and all that.
Right. And that's, I think, the same reason that, like, the professions of law and medicine, they both, like, require you to do continuing education at all times throughout your career. So, like, you don't just get your degree and, like, finish or, like, specialize and you're done. You're always learning, because it's that emphasis that things always are changing and you need to be aware of them and be ready with the skills necessary. And so there's no reason that shouldn't apply across the board for everything.
Very well said.
Yeah. So this next one comes from Kent from the Connect inbox.
Nice.
Tom, I stumbled on your site. So awesome. So thank you for that. Welcome. And you've taught me a great deal, and I use the information to motivate students to take the step beyond themselves.
God, I love that.
I teach air traffic control to new hires off the street. Any ideas on the mind or motivation? On the mind or motivation are golden nuggets to me. Okay. Inspiration, pushing these students to take action, and flow is what I look for in your content. Thank you so much for your work. As looks like there's no question here.
I was like,
thank you. I probably should have read that quickly before we started on it.
That's okay. So that's amazing. Air traffic control, from what I know, is like one of the most insanely stressful jobs. A, we're just honored to have you in the community. B, it sounds like you're able to take the motivation and translate it into action and actually teaching people. I think that's phenomenal. And then, man, like, I can't tell you how honored I am that teachers are using impact theory in their curriculum. Like, I had somebody tweet me, I believe, from Brazil, and it was a still of them up in front of the class with, like, impact theory and another show, and I forget which one, but up on the screen behind them. And I thought, whoa, like, you want to talk about staying connected to what we're really doing and the impact that we're having? Like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So I love that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we're way more honored that you're doing that than you probably are that we're doing the show. So, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, and, connect with us across social. We'd love to hear from you and get feedbacks for how we can help support you in, like, continuing to instill these nuggets with your students.
Yeah,
so,
amazing.
Yeah. All right, so this next one comes from Avatar. Avatar. From listening to your interviews, you say that you've had anxiety of being wrong. How did you overcome that, and what did you do? I struggle with the same issue and want to make progress because I fear, and I don't make progress because I'm always afraid of being wrong.
Well, so anxiety, whenever somebody asks about that, I really just want to talk about the brain. And coming to understand the brain was how I actually started unwinding the anxiety. So anxiety is literally a mental wiring problem. So you've taken a stimulus, a situation, and you've wired it to your obsession over imagining a future that has not yet happened that was negative. And so your brain just like starts freaking out, like, oh my God, this scenario, like, it could go wrong all these ways. And so you begin to hardwire for that. And so you allow your brain to obsess over a future outcome that's potentially negative. And once you understand that, oh, okay, so the brain will wire for whatever I imagine obsessively happening. So what if I forced myself to obsessively imagine things going right? And once you start doing that, then, and it is not the most rapid process, I really wish it were, but you begin to get that spiral going in the opposite direction so that you're feeling less and less anxious and you get more and more excited about doing that. And that's where it gets really powerful, is to obsess about your future going well. And that's why when people talk about envisioning things, and like speakers do this a lot, where they go out and they own the stage and they need to walk the stage and look out and like familiarize themselves with that. And in that environment, imagine it going well and all of that, like so that they can really begin to wire that. So when they step out there and there's a lot of people that the wiring has begun to take place so that there's nothing that triggers their anxiety. So that is a question of the brain for me. So just, you need to be researching the brain. You need to understand, like, being able to imagine myelination really helped, and what myelination is. And so it's basically, you've got the neurons that connect to each other. And the points of connection, when you're doing something over and over and over, like learning to play tennis or whatever, what's happening is you're myelinating so that the electrical impulses can travel faster between those neurons. And that's really what getting good at something is you build this really densely connected set of neurons so that they can communicate very rapidly. And that's it. Like, once I could understand that, then it was like, well, wait a second. I've created what Tony Robbins calls a super highway to anxiety. I have like myelinated the shit out of like whatever, right? For me, like, learning business was the process that really triggered my anxiety. It was in a high stress environment and I knew nothing about what I was doing. I'm not a born entrepreneur. So I was really like having to learn everything, and I was in over my head, and it was a crazy, crazy time in my life. So I now had this like densely wired, because I didn't understand what was happening at first. Like if I had caught it early, oh God, that'd be so much easier. But I didn't understand the brain well enough to know what was going on. So I like spent years myelinating this obsessive, like, I'm going to embarrass myself. I'm going to do something stupid. Like people are going to freak out at me. They're going to be so pissed off, and like it's going to erupt into this huge, because all of that happened. Like, but it's going to happen a lot. And so it just like got dense. So now by the time I realize, like, this is getting weird. Like, I remember the first time it really made my radar, I normally would exit the parking garage by going right for whatever reason. And one day, like, someone was coming or something, and so I turned left, and it gave me anxiety. And I was like, why would I have anxiety over that? And so then I start learning about generalized anxiety and how, like, if you don't catch it, like, you start to get anxious about random shit, like for whatever. So I was like, okay, wait a second. So then I had to start researching it. Then I started understanding myelination. Then I started understanding the way that the brain works and that I could unwind it. But I had to like start imagining things going well and spending my time on that and learning meditation and like the whole shebang that you have to do to actually begin to unwind that. So, period. We'll stop there. But it's a really big topic.
Yeah, because what I find fascinating is something that you said earlier about if you had caught it earlier. So what would be, for someone who may not be there, what should they kind of like look for in terms of like stopping that process, or, you know, changing that?
So for me, I experience anxiety, and this is one of the reasons I hate being cold so much. I experience anxiety the way I experience cold. So I start to feel jittery. I start to feel like a little unrooted. I get like weird, unpleasant butterflies, not like love butterflies, but like unpleasant like butterflies in my stomach.
Are they persistent butterflies or like little ones?
It's like they come and they go. I think of it, it feels like if you imagine like turning a hose on and then off, on, then off. So it's kind of intense, but then it stops. Kind of intense, and then it stops.
Interesting.
It's not like it's just perpetual.
Yeah.
And if I had like recognized that, oh, okay, this is me feeling anxious, which I actually didn't know the difference between being nervous and being anxious.
Right. Because I was like, a lot of times people associate like those butterflies with just being nervous. Yeah. Because it's like that wave of butterflies before you do something weird. And it stops. Nervousness
and anxiety are probably on a continuum. And that like nerves are like the beginning of something. And then anxiety is a more chronic, where it escalates and you can't control it. And so I don't mind being nervous, which we'll call sort of the low end. It makes you take something seriously. You're going to pay attention to it. But then when it like escalates. So nerves to me, they terminate before you get to blood leaving the prefrontal cortex. Because what I couldn't understand was, why do I think and perform worse when I'm like really anxious? And the reason is, you've officially now triggered the sympathetic nervous system. You are officially in fight or flight. Blood is leaving the prefrontal cortex because you don't need to make higher level cognitive decisions. Now you need to throw a punch, dodge a punch, dodge the jaws of the tiger that's trying to bite you, right? Like that's where you need to be. So it's all going to like this physiological response. You don't, like, your body's not thinking, oh, wait, you're having this anxiety response over something that now is going to demand high level cognition. So when something like speaking triggers anxiety, you're in a real dangerous place because you're going to go and you're not going to be able to perform. And it is literally the fact that you're anxious about not being able to perform that makes you not able to perform. So it's like the only thing we have to fear is anxiety, right? It's like, because that's the thing that will actually make this imagined reality come true. So understanding all of this was like, this is the dumbest thing ever. So getting anxious about it is actually going to make me perform poorly. So now I'm becoming anxious because I'm afraid I might become anxious. So it's like this weird like loop, and you know that it's real. Like if I get anxious, I will perform worse because the blood is leaving my prefrontal cortex. Everything is going through my amygdala. My brain is screaming danger, danger. And I actually can't process the data coming at me in a higher level cognition way. I actually can't process it. So I am actually like empirically worse at whatever it is that I'm trying to do. So I was like, first of all, for me, that was a moment of breakthrough because it's like, that's dumb. And once I can grasp onto, this is dumb. Like this doesn't make sense. Do and believe that which moves you towards your goals. Okay, well, being anxious is moving me away from my goals, kids. So now what do I need to do? Okay, well, imagining a scenario going bad, oh, that doesn't make sense. So I'm going to stop doing that. And I think part of the reason I started doing that was so I could get to the point where I had inoculated myself from the emotional sting of failure. So I would imagine it going wrong. So I'd be like, well, how would I deal with this if it goes wrong? Like, what's my escape hatch? How do I get out of this? And it's like, now you're just thinking about negative shit. Like you're just thinking about all the ways that it could go wrong. Instead, I was like, hey, be surprised by failure. Like have thought so obsessively about this going right that if it fails, you're like, wait, what? But at least then you'll be in a good place emotionally. You'll feel confident because you've imagined this going right like 1,000 ways. And these are all the things that made me go, I don't care what's true. I don't care if the odds of me going up and failing are like ridiculously high. Because in thinking about failing, I increase the odds of me failing like 100-fold. So it's like, why would I do that? Even if it's true, why would I do that? Doesn't make sense. So I'm going to think about all the ways that it's going to go right, even if that's a lie, right? I don't know that it's going to go right. I am literally faking myself out to imagine a scenario where it's gone perfectly. Hey, everything went well. Like that's also a lie, but it's an empowering lie. So I'm going to like do that one. So I'll actually stop this time. That's anxiety.
Yeah, sorry. I just like, I had this moment because everything you're describing is, so like my sister, she gets like really bad anxiety. And so for a long time, it was trying to unravel for the two of us, like in terms of our communication, because I just don't think that way. And I've never really thought that way. And I never really understood why, you know, in the same situation, I would perform better and she would perform significantly worse. And so it was just like, yeah, so sorry, just had a moment, guys.
100%.
All right, so our next question, and probably final question, comes from, actually this one, I'm not sure where it came from.
Okay.
So Tom, you talk about being aggressively yourself. How do you manage to be aggressively yourself in spaces that may not be as accepting of who you are? So like,
all right, so advanced class, like, look, I know when to tone it down, right? And it's just, you got to get to the point where it's like, sometimes it's not the time to be aggressively yourself. Sometimes it's the time to be real quiet and to sit with your hands in your lap and to just be chill and get the lay of the land and be respectful. And so, yeah, when I say be aggressively yourself, I'm talking where that's appropriate. So if I'm trying to build a romantic relationship with somebody, I'm going to be aggressively myself. It's what it's about. It's about getting to know each other. So hiding something about who I am or whatever, like that doesn't make sense. In an interview, there's times where I'm like, my job here is to let this person shine. My job is to learn something from them. So for instance, we just filmed an episode recently where in the episode, I was kind of dialed back because I really wanted to give them a chance to like enlighten the audience and like walk us through what they had been through. And then when the camera stopped rolling, then like we really had a chance to have this super like raw conversation where I could talk to him without him having to be tense that somebody was watching. And so that was fun and interesting. And so that was like no, and we got an amazing interview. So I really believe I played the interview right, but it was actually really fun to now go, and the cameras are off. Now let's really like talk about this where we can really go back and forth and like, you know, discover something that we would talk about in a way when no one's watching. And so that was a lot of fun. And so it's like understanding the context of where you're at is critical. And I think a lot of times people want things to be binary, and I make them sound binary because that's where you start, right? You start black or white. But then and that's why I call it the advanced class. Like eventually you get to the point where you realize this is actually really nuanced. This is actually all shades of gray. And how do we handle this deftly? And so that's where you separate the good from the great. You can get good by being binary, but you never get great. Like you really have to understand like when's this gas, when's it break, like knowing when to love yourself and when to hate yourself, right? Most people, they just can't. Like they're like me with food, right? I'm really good at not eating bad food. Okay, I'm hella disciplined. Like literally 99.99999% of the world cannot hang with me from a disciplined diet standpoint. But I bet there are people, in fact, I'll say 99.9999% of the world are better than me at eating one thing. Like I can't have one chip. I can't have like one bite of pizza.
Yes.
Like
I had a friend like that.
Once I go in, I'm in, motherfucker.
I had a friend like that. And it was just like, it blew my mind. The only thing I can really do that with is like dark chocolate.
The other day I saw you eat 2 Oreos and I thought, man, that's some discipline.
Yeah.
Like that would mess with me. Like once I like that taste of Oreo in my mouth, man. Now I'm like, let's get crazy, motherfucker. Like I'm going in on some Oreos.
It like comes and goes, man. But like for whatever reason, dark chocolate is one of those things that I can like eat a small amount of and just like be fine. And just like put it back. My sister was like, wait, you still have the same damn chocolate bar? I was like, yeah. She's like, it's been here for like months. Wait, what? You didn't buy a new one? I was like, no.
That's good. And maybe that's like something I need to practice.
Yeah.
Like go in and eat like a bite of an Oreo and just be like, yeah, now what?
Yeah. Because then I feel like you'd probably open a door to like a brand new discipline for yourself and food. But like, I don't know. I guess it has to fit with your goals because there's a lot of sugar in that. So yeah.
So to me, it's a bit like doing a little bit of cocaine or a little bit of heroin. It's like, oh, it's probably best to have a binary policy on that one.
Like just leave it be. Exactly. So it's like, learn your strengths, kids.
Exactly.
Yeah. Should we do one more? Because I have one more.
We could do one more. We'll do a little bit of a fast
answer. Do like a real quick answer. All right. So this one comes from Brian McLean. Your intent is to create narratives. Any thought on how to help the narrative of mindset crossover into execution? Any thoughts on Jocko Willink's Way of the Warrior Kid?
So I haven't read Jocko's book, The Way of the Warrior Kid, yet. And I don't think a lot about kids, but I do think impact theory is going to have a kid's division, so maybe I should get up on that.
Yeah, you should.
I'm guessing that Jocko's book is amazing because his mindset is incredible. So when I heard about that, I thought, wow, that's actually a really fascinating guy to do a children's book. And then what was the first part of the question? How do we cross over into execution? Sorry, it was important to me to remember that. So crossing over into execution is literally what the show's about. And that's why we have 2 sides. We've got like the media and what we're trying to do there and build the studio. But we also have, I'm talking less and less about it because I found that people were gravitating way too hard to that side for me, which is the how do we actually help entrepreneurs execute? And that at the end of the day, like the whole idea, and we have to sort of redefine what an entrepreneur means. You don't have to want to start your own company. But the reason that we want to do this mass media that really instills a certain mindset into people is so that they will execute against some of the world's greatest challenges. And like that is really, really important to me. So that'll literally be one of the questions that we're trying to answer is how do you get people not to be empty dreamers, right? So how do you get them to actually execute? And there's a reason that every impact theory main ep begins with "You're here, my friends," because you know that having potential is not the same as executing on it. So like that's the juice. Like how do you really help people get over into that? And so to break it down really fast, it's like, okay, getting people to value that dreaming is empty. So right now we don't. Like, we encourage people just to dream. And so we have to start encouraging them to not be pacified by a dream, but actually say, what have you done with it? To get people to understand the idea of technique, that gaining a skill that serves people is critical. So having a skill that's useful, but then actually using it, like, how do you judge your own self-worth? The thing that we talk a lot about now is money. So if you look at, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. We all know the big names in the space that they sell courses on how to do things, which I actually don't think is bad. But the lifestyle that they're painting is all one of like fancy cars and stuff like that. Look, I could have literally, I could have a garage full of exotic cars. I don't. Why? Because they don't bring value. So like painting that lifestyle, that's just not who I want to attract. Like, I want to attract people who hold themselves to a different standard. And so we talked a lot about that. It was like, well, Tom, are you going to paint that lifestyle? Because bro, like, we could have like, no bullshit. We could have like 1 million followers by now. If I just did that, they would be the wrong followers. But like, if I just went on private flights all the time, bought a few Lamborghinis, a couple Rolls Royces, and just fucking rolled around and was like, y'all could have this too. Like, dig my course. Like, but that would be so
but it goes
icky.
So against like who you are. Like,
trust me, I would never.
Well,
because
I know we've had these discussions, but it's
icky. It's icky. It feeds into people the wrong ideas, right? So I really want people to look past that. So if you want people to look past that, like, then don't feed into it, right? So that's a big part of it. Now I'm gonna be, look, there are times that I do expensive shit, and and when I do expensive shit, I love it.
Treat yourself.
And so, right? And I'm going to, I will definitely film it and stuff. It's just not a part of like the core, like, we need to be thinking beyond that. So that's why I think execution is so important. I think collectively we could do amazing things with this planet. And remember, I'm the guy that's like reading Michio Kaku and saying, hey, like, as you go up in levels as a species, you can actually harness the power of a star, warp space time. Like, I'm thinking, okay, but for us to do that, we have to survive having nuclear weapons and like doing really dumb shit. Like, so how do we get ourselves past that? So I want to help feed into that. And I believe that the way that we're going to do it with narrative and a focus on execution is the way that we get there. Starts with changing the narrative. Joseph Campbell, you want to change the world, change the metaphor. We have to get people to see something other than just like wealth creation and splashing money around. And that's why so many people go broke. They splash the money around only to realize, hey, this doesn't last forever. Like, but doing cool, amazing stuff for people, is an awesome strategy to having people. Like, if you want to know, I am going so hard on Gary Vee's new show, Planet of the Apps. Why? Because I think Gary Vee adds value to the world. B, I'm really trying to deepen my relationship with him. We're already one of his clients. Like, I really believe in that guy. He's added value to my life. Like, so I fucking want to show him, like, I support you, dude. That, and Gary Vee came on the show. We all know, dude, if you're Impact Theory alum, I'm going to go way the fuck out of my way to like make your life better, to thank you for what you did. Like, that's so important. And in fact, in Gary's episode, he said, I don't get why people are talking about karma as if like it's some big surprise. Doing good things for people is a good strategy. So do good things. It will come back to you like a millionfold. Yeah, especially when people are like, that's so woo-woo. I was like, but I'll just call it something else then. That's how humans work. Yeah, but anyway, that's it for today, everyone. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us and for submitting questions. The easiest way to submit a question is connect@impacttheory.com, but you can submit them anywhere on social. We're always combing through. Exactly. So if you're replying to a YouTube video, an Instagram post, you're tweeting something at me, all of that is amazing. We'll take it, we'll collect it, and we will bring them. Forgive us for not doing this one live. I really do love doing these lives, but I'm in Europe right now. And so hopefully you're following me on Instagram. You're hitting me up on Twitter, Facebook, all of it, so you can see what I'm up to right now in Europe. So thank you guys so much for joining us. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. And until next time, my friends, be legendary. Take care.